The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And it is Friday, November 4th. It's hard to believe that we are now into November, and the time is just keeps on ticking. And for those that don't know it, this is the week before our elections, which are being held on Tuesday of next week. Exciting times here, and on the other hand, I think a lot of people are going to be ready to be done with it because the commercials are pretty onerous. Let's leave it at that. If this is your first time tuning into our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier life, happier life as well, and we've been doing this now for 3 years. You can catch our shows up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. And you'll be able to catch this show after the show is done, and you'll be able to catch about 130 others that we've been bringing to you right here from Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM, and on the World Wide Web at moneyradio1510.com. And really, the benefit of this show is based on our guests. And it's not just me, the host. I bring outstanding people here on the show to contribute to how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And today is no different. I have an extraordinary guest on with me and somebody I've gotten a chance to get to know over the last couple years. I want to introduce to our listening audience Representative Kate Brophy McGee. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Bob. Thank you.
It's great to have you here on the show. And, I have had the opportunity to learn a lot about legislation and our local government because, as many of our listeners know, I advocate for our older adults, as I know you do.
Correct.
And, Kate, you and I have had the opportunity to serve on the Task Force Against Senior Abuse, and that is a task force that has been created by the Arizona Attorney General's office. And we've been together for probably close to 5 or 6 years, really trying to safeguard our older adults. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart, but it's something that is happening so fast. They call it the silver tsunami. And here, as we start to wrap up 2016, we're really only 5 years into this wave of baby boomers turning 65. And to think about it, we got another 12, 13 years left.
That's right.
And, I got to tell you, we are finding people with some complex issues. And I'm talking about health issues, mental health issues, and this wave that is happening, we as a community have to really pull together to figure out how we can safeguard this generation, this greatest generation that created what we have here today.
That's true.
I want to just pause for a second and just share with our listening audience. If you don't know the name Kate Brophy McGee, she has been a representative here in the state of Arizona for how long now?
I was first elected in 2010, and I just finished my third term in the House.
Third term in the House, and she is running for state Senate in District 28. And, certainly I know I'm going to give her a shameless plug because she's not going to want to do it anyway. But I'm going to say go out and vote, but vote on Tuesday, November 8th, and vote for Kate Brophy McGee. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that you're standing for and some of the positions that you have taken. But I want to really talk about some of the things that we have done together. And safeguarding older adults is something that is near and dear to me. And since 2006, we have been trying to get legislation in our state, and basically legislation to protect our older adults in the field that we're in, and that is home care. And for those that are listening in for the very first time, my family owns an in-home care providing service, and we have W-2 employees. We have nearly 200 caregivers that go into people's homes and enable our older adult population that age successfully in place. And in order to do that, we need to make sure we do thorough background checks. We need to make sure that they're properly trained. We need to do a lot of the things that are necessary to safeguard our older adults. And at Cypress Home Care Solutions, we do pre-employment drug screening. We do 50 state background checks. We also do fingerprint clearance cards. They have to test negative for TB because our older adult population is extremely vulnerable to picking up tuberculosis. They have to be first aid certified, CPR certified. They have to have caregivers experience, and if they don't, I have a caregiver training lab to give them that experience. And there has to be care oversight. And it's crazy because there are no regulations in the state. And we have as I shared earlier, we got this silver tsunami, and people are aging at such a fast pace that how do we safeguard them without regulation? And I know you and I are cut from the same cloth. I am not a regulation person, but sometimes you need to have that, especially when you're talking about the vulnerables.
Bob, I couldn't agree with you more. I remember meeting you first on the TASA committee, the Task Force Against Senior Abuse, that was started by the Attorney General. It's a great committee. It has produced great recommendations, pulling together individuals and companies from all across the state who are involved with the various and very complex aspects of aging. And your story in particular was very compelling to me when you realize that anybody could go to work caring for an elderly person in their home. And actually, in my constituent services arena, I have run across this time and time again, where they have no credentials, there's no background check. Oftentimes, they are hired by concerned children who live out of state and don't really have the mechanism and the ability. They think that they're hiring someone who will care for their elderly loved one. But so often they take advantage of them. There are very few companies out there who do what Cypress does, who puts those safeguards in place. And I have to tell you, that's one of the reasons I'm running for the Senate. That was one of the most frustrating fights that I've had in the legislature. The optimal situation for the elderly to age at home in a comfortable environment, it's optimal, but it also happens to be the least expensive option for the state. And as this population grows and grows, it becomes incumbent upon us to make certain that these people are safe. If you look at the incidence increase in elder abuse, all the indicators show that we're headed in the wrong direction. I am not pro-regulation in every instance, but in this case, some basic safeguards that would move Arizona out of 50th in the nation for safeguards in place for the elderly are what we need to do.
You know, and we've talked about it here on the show, 9 out of 10 people want to be able to stay at home. And to your point, it is the least costly option. And also to your point, there's so many wolves out there in sheep's clothing. And if we don't put together some type of regulation, some way to vet out these people that are going into these homes, we're gonna have a lot of challenges. We're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna be put in very vulnerable situations, financial exploitation, as well as physical and mental harm, if you would. I know we're up against a break real soon here, and I want to talk more about this. I want to talk about some of the things that we have accomplished, too, because we have accomplished some good stuff. especially in a state that really isn't regulation friendly. But we need something. And if we don't do something now, what's the future going to hold? You know, I got to tell you, Kate, I think we're talking about very important issues that really need to be addressed. And, you know, we talk about the presidential election. They're not talking about it. We're not talking about it in the state either, but we need to really start addressing these things. And we'll talk a little bit more when we come from a break. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm Bob Roth, your host, and I've got Representative Kate Brophy McGee here in the studio. We will be right back.
Of Market Wrap with Mo Ansari, the daily show that brings you the latest financial news, expert guests from around the world, and answers to your financial questions. If you missed the show on the radio, get the Market Wrap app and listen at your convenience. Just dial pound 250 on your cell phone and use the keyword Talk to Mo. Once you have the Market Wrap app, the show will download automatically to your smartphone every day. So dial pound 250 on your cell phone and use the keyword Talk to Mo to get the Market Wrap app.
This is J.D. Hayworth, host of Newsmax Prime on Newsmax TV with great news. Now you can watch Newsmax Prime twice each weeknight on KFPB Channel 56 on CenturyLink Prism. The future of our nation is at stake in this election, and it's imperative you get the news and analysis you can trust. Join me Monday through Friday on Newsmax Prime at 5 and again at 8 p.m. on KFPB Channel 56 on CenturyLink Prism. See you then.
Hello, this is Stephen Phillips, owner of Z Cleaners, the only certified couture care dry cleaning company in Phoenix, and I have only a minute to tell you about our free pickup and delivery service. Z Cleaners home pickup and delivery service gives you back precious time, delivers convenience and predictability to your week. Our drivers will stop by your home twice a week, every week, to pick up and deliver your garments. Just put your order out. We'll pick it up and return your garments a few days later. It's that simple. And you don't have to be home. You spend 2 minutes at your front door and save 2 trips to the cleaners. And it's free. Area restrictions do apply. Hey, switch to a cleaner you can count on, Z Cleaners. We are certified, dependable, and trustworthy. Give us a call today at 602-CLEANER or find us on the web at zcleaners.com. Remember, 2 minutes at the front door saves 2 trips to the cleaners. And it's free. Z Cleaners. Excellence always.
It's an event you don't want to miss. This year's Financial Fest in Scottsdale, Arizona, Saturday, November 19th. It's free, and you can get more info at financialfest.com. Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And I'm here with Kate Brophy McGee, who is a representative of our state, and she is seeking the voters' vote for the state Senate seat in District 28. And Kate and I have had a chance to get to know one another over the last several years because both of us are advocates for our older adults. And while we don't have regulation, and we both talked about in our previous segment how we're not regulation-type people, but when it comes to our vulnerables, we have to do something. And while we didn't accomplish regulation per se, we did get a bill through. And basically what that bill does, it does add some requirements that are required for home care providers like Cypress, and that is, one of the provisions is that they have to disclose all information on their home care services on an annual basis. They have to describe if they're employees or contractors. They have to say in their agreements with the consumers who is the person that is responsible for the daily management of those employees or contractors. They also have to disclose what training is involved for those contractors and caregivers, and they also have to have a description of those costs of those services. And lastly, how do you exit and how do you terminate those agreements? Because I'm going to tell you, Kate, I've seen it across the board. I mean, I've seen people they literally have these older adults sign these contracts and hold them accountable. And some of them hold them as long as 48 hours. Some of them hold them to a week, sometimes 30 days cancellation. They don't really know what they're signing.
I really applaud you for the work that you did to get what little was gotten. But you still have a couple of problems with that. And the first is that there really isn't a mechanism for enforcement.
Right.
And secondly is driving consumers to a place where they can get the information. What should they be looking for if they're trying to help a loved one who wants to age in place? Oftentimes they go for the best sales pitch, but they don't ask the questions they should be asking around it. And we read time and time again in the paper about elderly people who are exploited. I have problems come across my desk that I refer to constituent services, where it is loved ones trying with the limited means available to them to make sure their elderly person is safe and at home, but they fall short.
Right.
So it's a real problem, and I think we need to continue to address it.
We do. We really do. We talked about it on the show before, and we'll continually talk about it. And once you get in the Senate, we're going to talk about it again because we're not going to stop. We've got to continually fight for this vulnerable population to safeguard them because there is so much going on out there, and if we don't do it, who will?
Exactly.
We've got a couple propositions, and I want to jump on those right now because two in particular that affect our state is 205 and 206. And, my only asset I have as a home care agency owner is my people. And at the same time, I advocate for my clients, and my clients barely can afford the services that we provide. And at the same time, I am a provider of services for our state's All-Tex program. And for those that don't know this is our state's Medicaid program. And they are strapped as it is for their budgets. And with the 206, and I'm talking about minimum wage, going up from $8.05 to $10 in the next 7 weeks, is going to have a huge impact on the state's All-Tex budget, Medicaid budget, as well as it's going to have an impact on the people that do receive care from caregivers because now their costs are going to go up. It was extremely onerous last year when this segment that we're in, and I'm talking about companion care, there was a bill that was put into place back in 1974, a federal bill, that was called the Companion Exemption Rule that afforded agencies and individuals that were providing care for older adults or vulnerable children to not have to be paid overtime. And that got overturned. And I had caregivers that were working 60, 70 plus hours a week, and they knew that they weren't going to be paid overtime because they love the work that they do. They're compassionate, they're caring individuals, and they knew that the clients that they serve could barely afford their services. I've now had to force them down to 40 hours, and many of them have left our workforce as well as many other of the agencies, and they've either gone underground or they're doing other things to try to make ends meet because I can't give them the hours. And at the same time, those individuals that were receiving care, because the overtime exemption rule that needed more than 40 hours a week have gone elsewhere to maybe get care, and they may be hiring immigrants, they may be hiring undocumented workers, they may be hiring, less than desirable people just so that they can get by. So it is a real challenge that we have right now. And, I want to be for minimum wage, but at the same time, there is the cost that comes along with that.
Well, I actually came out with a letter in opposition to the minimum wage simply because of an unintended consequence they did not address in that legislation. And that is for disabled people who are capable of holding down entry-level jobs and pride themselves in doing so. This legislation makes no exemption for them to have these entry or training level jobs. And so I think in the long run, it will drive them out of the employment market. And I care and work with a lot of vulnerable populations, the disabled certainly being one.
Sure.
So it's an example of, just one example of an unintended consequence that is written into an initiative which is voter protected. Now, what do I mean when I say voter protected? That means that the legislature cannot change any aspect of the law. We can't 90 days from now go, oops, we forgot this. We need to go back and fix that. It's the law. It's absolutely the way it will become law. There are no tweaks other than going back to the ballot and once again asking people to tweak it. I am so for people getting ahead, for people lifting themselves up. I think there are so many unintended consequences related to this initiative that the end result will be small businesses will be forced to employ fewer people, and it will drive us further into automation.
I agree.
Yeah.
It will. I mean, those low-paying jobs, they're no longer there. The $5 footlongs, the 99-cent hamburgers, they will end up being possibly a thing of the past because they're going to be paying more. Minimum wage by 2020 will be $12 an hour.
Well, if you look at Walmart adopted a higher wage policy.
Mm-hmm.
They did this about year and a half ago. And paying everybody on the floor more and offering better benefits. Their latest iteration of, first of all, they closed some stores. Secondly, they've now automated their outsourced their back office and put all of those workers out onto the floor. And it, again, at the same time, reduced the number of jobs. I am so for people making living wage, but I think if by driving the unemployment higher and putting more pressure on small businesses, the initiative defeats itself.
You know what's interesting, too, is, I'm a part of this trade association called the National Association of Home Care and Hospice, and they're located in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. I serve on the board. 36,000 agencies, hospice, home health, and home care are part of it. And, our person that's in charge of all the stuff that's going in the legislature said that all of this is being driven by the Department of Labor. And, at first I thought it was going to be the SEIU that was driving a lot of this, but no, he said the DOL is driving all this, and unfortunately, I think, as you said, the unintended consequence is going to be it's going to be more unemployment, and it's going to be automation, it's going to be lost to a lot of these jobs, and then on top of which, I think another unintended consequence is it's going to bust our budgets. Mm-hmm. You talk about disability, right? So that comes from the state budget. So that budget was, already stretched as it was. I can tell you that the home and community-based service budget for All-Tex, our state's Medicaid, is pretty high as it is as well. So, I mean, it's putting a lot of
School districts, too. School districts are not exempt.
So, I mean, we are putting a lot of stress on our state budgets, which were already stressed enough as it was. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hard to believe we're at halftime. We're up against a break. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. My name is Bob Roth. I'm your host. I've got Kate Brophy McGee in the studio. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Two former allies of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie have been found guilty today of all charges linked to Bridgegate, with both convicted of plotting lane closures to punish a Democratic mayor. Correspondent Deborah Farrick.
Only in New Jersey can gridlock be considered a form of political retaliation. At least that's what federal prosecutors succeeded in showing during the course of this 6-week trial against two of Governor Christie's really political operatives.
A University of Virginia administrator has been awarded close to $8 million after a jury found Rolling Stone magazine, its owner, and a reporter liable for defamation in a retracted story about a woman who claimed she was gang raped. Federal officials have warned authorities in New York City, Texas, and Virginia about an unspecified threat of attacks by al-Qaeda militants around Election Day, putting local law enforcement on alert. The threat is said to be at a relatively low level. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average off 8 points. I'm Ann Cates.
All loans subject to lender approval, must be in business 1 year and have $100,000 in annual revenue. If your goal is to take your small business to the next level, there's something you're going to need above all else: money. Fortunately, we're talking with someone who's no stranger to helping small businesses. Barbara Corcoran from TV Shark Tank.
Listen, all companies need capital, and when it comes to capital, no one knows small business like OnDeck. OnDeck has delivered over $5 billion in loans, and having earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, it's no wonder why 9 out of 10 customers would recommend OnDeck to a friend. There's no obligation, and you could receive a loan decision in minutes and funding in as fast as 1 business day. Over 50,000 small businesses have already received the loans they needed, and so could you.
Speak with our U.S.-based loan specialists and find out how much you qualify for now at OnDeckLending.com or call 800-367-2200. That's 800-367-2200. 800-367-2200.
This is Money Radio, sponsor of the premier financial event, Financial Fest, Saturday, November 19th. Find details and get registered at financialfest.com.
Are you a business owner? Are you maximizing the internet and social media to grow your business? Then you need to check out Money Radio's newest show, Fast Turtle's Digital Pros with Eric Olson and Graham Ware. These two digital wizards will educate and give you the latest information on all things digital, social media, SEO, PPC, and digital engagement. This is the future. Don't miss out. Tune in every Monday at noon for Fast Turtle Digital Pros right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM. Attention retirees and those of you headed into retirement. Do you know how much risk there is in your portfolio? Do you know why it may be potentially advantageous to roll over your 401k, TSA, TSP, 403b, 457 plan into an IRA? Secure Financial Solutions LLC wants you to know the advantages of working with, in their opinion, some of the best fee-based active money managers. Call Secured Financial Solutions LLC at 800-957-5604 extension 200. Learn about the best annuity on the market and the potential impact of taxes and high fees on the overall performance of your portfolio returns. Please call Secured Financial Solutions LLC at 800-957-5604 extension 200 to set up your Knowledge is Power session. Let them empower you with facts on the web at dreamretire.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Horder Investment Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Security transactions for Horder Investment Management clients are placed through TD Ameritrade, Trust Company of America, and ED&F Man Capital Markets. Annuity products are offered separately through Secured Financial Solutions, LLC.
If you own or manage a small business, you have plenty to worry about besides your computers until they go down. Suddenly, you're losing time, productivity, and business. That's why you call Team Logic IT. They respond quickly to troubleshoot and repair problems. We can install all new computer networks or set up a proactive maintenance program that will back up your data and help keep your system from going down in the future. Call Team Logic IT today at 602-254-5558 or TLITPHOX.com.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of up to 3 people. Give blood through the American Red Cross to help hospital patients. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org today.
I'm Marcy Norton with Your Money Now. Target's top grocery executive is out after the retailer announced disappointing quarterly results that may have been the result of weak food sales. The Star Tribune and the Wall Street Journal say Ann Dement will leave Target later this month after about a year and a half on the job. Stocks rose after employment data signaled solid momentum in the labor market, but those gains have shrunk. In fact, the Dow is now lower, down 7 points at 17,922. The Nasdaq just a fraction higher. S&P 500 up only 1 point. Investors may be getting some election jitters. The Wall Street Journal's Heard on the Street column says the Chicago Board of Options Exchange Volatility Index, or the VIX, rose to a level of more than 22 after word last week the FBI may have found more emails related to the Clinton server scandal. That's the highest so-called fear gauge has been since the Brexit vote. Again, the Dow's lower now, down 7 points. That's Your Money Now.
In my line of work, I'm trying to make a difference. Not $1 billion, but I want to save for the future, too. So this year, I partnered with TIAA to help me map out a plan. If I stick to it, I could have an income stream for life, and maintain my lifestyle in retirement. Looks like a life of rewarding work could pay off for a lifetime.
Your personal success takes a financial partner who values it as much as you do. Learn more at TIAA.org.
It started at bunko night. A little tickle in my throat, says Sandra. Then comes Colin barking like a seal. That cough, that's the flu. And then it spreads to Edna, to Wiley, to Marjorie. But when it comes to your door, you won't be answering because you got your flu shot at Rite Aid, where they care about you and your health. So while they're seeing doctors and sweating through fevers, you'll be teaching your granddaughter the 2-deck shuffle. Shield yourself at Rite Aid before it's too late. If you're over 65, the CDC recommends flu and pneumonia shots. No appointments necessary, and they're free with Medicare Part B. Rite Aid. With us, it's personal. Flu vaccines available while supplies last. Age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacy for details.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and I've got Representative Kate Brophy McGee in the studio. She's running for the State Senate, District 28, and we've been talking about older adults, and we've been talking about these propositions. We finished the last segment, and if you missed it, segment 2 was we were talking about Proposition 206, the minimum wage, and what that was going to do to our state's budgets for disabilities, what it was going to do to our budget for our older adults with our Medicaid budget, and also what it was going to do for older adults that pay for care privately. And I did share just briefly, I talked a little bit about the overtime exemption rule that got overturned, and now that puts more pressure on older adults to get care at home. There's another proposition that's on the ballot, and I don't want to take too much time talking about it, but there are two that are prominent that are in the news and in the media, and that's Proposition 205, and that is the legalization for recreation use of marijuana. And that, on the surface, a lot of people say, wow, that's great. We can tax it. We can put the money towards schools. But there's so many other inherent issues with 205 if it gets legalized. And for me, because I have a workforce, I believe we hold at Cypress HomeCare Solutions, we hold our caregivers to a much higher standard. As you shared in our first segment, Kate, I appreciate you sharing that. What we do at Cypress is hold them up to that higher bar. I mean, I pre-employ drug screen everybody, and if there is a unfortunate incident that happens, we send them for a drug test. And the hardest thing about Proposition 205 with marijuana is that is something that stays in your system for 30 days. So if you have a caregiver that on Saturday evening is having a good time eating edibles, which is one that causes a lot of concerns because they look like candy, and if our children get a hold of that, they could have all kinds of challenges with it. But if somebody's eating edibles or smoking marijuana on Saturday and they're working out in the field on Wednesday and a client of theirs falls or hurts themselves and I send them in for a drug test, they're going to test positive for marijuana. And they may not have been impaired. Right. And I think Prop 205 ties the hands of employers, of courts. I do understand that there is a generational difference of opinion in whether or not marijuana should be legal or not legal. I am firmly in the no, it shouldn't camp. But putting aside that question, say you're a libertarian and you support the legalization of marijuana, then you need to look at the how. And at the end of the day, marijuana could be legalized in this state with a 2-sentence law. Instead, what we have is a 25-page, small font, single-spaced initiative that puts in place a bureaucratic structure, including marijuana police, and the majority of members on the supervisory board being distributors themselves. And once again, going back to talking about voter initiatives, we cannot correct for anything that went wrong. An example would be Colorado has introduced 80 separate pieces of legislation to correct some of the oversights and problems with their legal marijuana law. Edibles for kids, they had to change that because kids were getting it. We won't be able to
We will not be able to change any aspect of this law unless we go back to the voters. So put aside the argument of whether you support legalized marijuana or not. The structure that is proposed is frightening, overwhelming, and cast in stone.
Yeah, it's, I appreciate you sharing that. It's something that's highly debated, and I know that the media is running, campaigns for it, against it, and showing everything in between. And we leave it out to the voters to make that decision on November 8th. And I appreciate you sharing your points of view on it, and I think our listening audience knows mine and my concern for my workforce, especially with caring for older adults that are vulnerable. And I just, the idea of having someone impaired and making an error in judgment has dramatic effects.
Well, as you know, I do a lot of work with children who are abused or neglected, and the family law courts are a big part of making a determination for that child's safety. The proposed legislation will not allow a family law judge to take into account marijuana usage or not. I've reviewed enough child fatality reports. I can tell you that the last one said marijuana was a factor, or at least, and not a cause, but a factor in 67% of the childhood fatalities that we've experienced. It's a very, very, it's something that needs to be approached much differently than this meat axe approach of just dropping a brand new bureaucracy on the voters of Arizona and telling them it's going to pay for schools, when in fact it will not.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I also want to talk about some of the great things that you're doing. I did a little research before having you on the show, and I want to just share with our listening audience, in 2014, you received the Community Fearless Caregiver Award during the Fearless Caregiver Conference put on by the Area Agency on Aging for your tireless commitment to supporting Arizona family caregivers. And a good friend of yours, and I know her as well because she was instrumental in helping us craft that legislation that we had passed, even though it doesn't have the teeth that we were looking for. Representative Heather Carter also received that award at the conference. That is an incredible award, and I thank you for the tireless work that you do for those family caregivers.
That was a very, very special award. You remember some more than others. This was near and dear to my heart.
Well, for those that don't know this, the month of November, and this is my first show for the month of November, and I talked about it last month, November is National Family Caregiving Month. And this was first created actually in 1994 by President Bill Clinton, and has been noted, or if you would, indoctrinated and certainly celebrated by every president since then. Celebrating those family caregivers that are making that ultimate sacrifice. And when you really think about over 40 million Americans, I think the number's like 47.5 million Americans are giving of themselves tirelessly every single day, trying to make their loved ones as comfortable as possible, and they sacrifice so much. And we talked about this in the first segment, the greatest generation. Mm-hmm. And this generation, Kate, really literally took that oath of sickness and health literally. And they don't really look for help. And I am making this appeal to our listening audience. Recognize those people that are making those sacrifices. It is huge what they're doing. And don't offer to help, but help. Just don't ask, do. Because many of them are feeling overwhelmed. Many of them are feeling alone and feeling deserted. Many of them are either sleeping too much or not getting enough sleep. They're gaining or losing weight. They're losing interest in activities. They're becoming irritated or angered. They are often sad, and it really is a tragedy. And I've shared this on our show before. 63% of those that are 65 and older caring for one another, the caregiver predeceases the care recipient.
That's something you see, I'm certain, every day. The road of a caregiver, I sometimes think, is even more difficult than the road of the loved one they are caring for. their work goes oftentimes unnoticed. And one of the things I've worked at since I've been in the legislature, and not successfully, but I did extend the respite care statute, which was first introduced by the late Senator Carolyn Allen. So we were able to extend that statute so it provides a provision if we're able to fund respite care for caregivers. But that is a top priority for me if I'm successful in getting elected to the Senate.
Well, I want to pick up on that because as I've shared our audience, with our listening audience, this demographic is just going to grow.
Yes.
And there are more and more doing that. And we do need legislation. We need policy. Yeah. We need, if I had a whiteboard, we need some kind of tax credit for those people that are giving up their jobs, their life, so that they can care for a loved one. Let's talk more about that when we get back. It's hard to believe we're down 3 segments. We got one more to go. I got Kate Brophy McGee here in the studio. I'm your host, Bob Roth. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be right back.
Farmfolio is now offering a series of informative webinars presenting opportunities in a unique alternative investment sector. Learn how to discover double-digit returns in organic agriculture. Founder Dax Cook will educate you about agriculture investing and cover what's relevant to the international supply and demand in the ag industry. Visit farmfolio.net, that's farmfolio.net, and register today for an informative and free webinar. All material should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.
Who says saving has to feel like sacrifice? Why should planning for tomorrow get in the way of living today? Wouldn't it be great to make once in a lifetime happen more than once? At Alaris, we'll help you reach your financial goals so you can achieve your dreams again and again. See how Alaris does banking, mortgage, retirement, and wealth management differently at Alaris.com, or stop by and talk with us today.
Valley of the Sun Active 2030 Club invites you to attend Wine Soiree, a Valley Kids Foundation benefit on Friday, November 18th at Livewire in Scottsdale. Wine Soiree is one of the premier fundraising events for Valley professionals, featuring wine tastings, hors d'oeuvres, live entertainment and dancing, auction and raffle. Proceeds benefit the Valley Kids Foundation. 15% off discounted tickets can be purchased online at VOS2030AZ.com with promo code MONEYRADIO. That's VOS2030AZ.com with promo code MONEYRADIO.
Hey, Money Radio listeners. Corey Scheidler here with Core Fitness AZ. I want you to look and feel great for the holidays. Did you know that 80% of your weight loss results are from eating better foods? That's why I want you to go to my website and download my free book of recipes. Go to www.corefitnessaz.com and click Download My Free Recipes, and I will email you your very own copy of my nutritious and delicious recipes. That's www.corefitnessaz.com. Do that today and start losing weight.
It's an event you don't want to miss. This year's Financial Fest in Scottsdale, Arizona, Saturday, November 19th. It's free, and you can get more info at financialfest.com. Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're on our 4th segment, and if you're just tuning in, I got Representative Kate Brophy McGee, who's running for the District 28 Senate seat, and we were talking about caregiving. It's National Family Caregiving Month, and we're talking about those unsung heroes, the ones that are making the ultimate sacrifice, keeping the promise that they have made to their loved ones to care for them. And yesterday, I know I've shared with our listening audience about Aging 2.0. And Aging 2.0 is a movement. It's a movement where we have got innovations and older adults colliding. And we've got these young, enterprising minds that are coming up with all these great new gadgets and solutions so that people can age successfully in place. And yesterday, we also we had one of our panel discussions, and we had a Aging 2.0 Arizona chapter meeting over at the Arizona Biltmore Golf Course at the Adobe Restaurant. And if you've not been there, it's a great restaurant. They just remodeled it. The food is really, really good there. Tell them Bob sent you. You'll love it. But we hosted our event there. Never in a million years did we think it was going to rain. And I want you to know that yours truly was the MC, and I kicked it off. And I said, when we planned this date back in June, we planned the date November 3rd, and we figured the chance of us having weather, and I was referring to severe weather, was probably less likely than, or more likely to happen than maybe the Cubs winning the World Series. I mean, who would have thought the Cubs would have won the World Series, and who would have ever thought we would have had the rain that we had? But I want to just share with our listening audience that we had a chance to hear from former Congressman Harry Mitchell. And Harry Mitchell he's my hero. He should be everybody's hero. He's made the sacrifice of being a caregiver for his lovely wife, Marianne, who is in the throes of Alzheimer's. He's made the ultimate sacrifice to be that caregiver. And he walked us through that journey, what he has gone through, and having her placed into a community. And Harry's there every single morning. And he's there, with her for breakfast, brushing her hair, getting her ready for the day. I mean, the love affair is one that just, it brings you to tears. And I share this with everyone because, first of all, I don't know if Harry had a whole lot of influence on it, but it is a movement, and there's a whole group of people that had an influence of Tempe being a dementia-friendly city. And it is a dementia-friendly city, and they have a memory cafe there in the Tempe Public Library. If you're not aware of it, you should go check it out. But it is a dementia-friendly city, and we've got to work harder as a community. I mentioned it when we broke from our third segment. I'm like, we've got to introduce some kind of policy for these family caregivers that are making the ultimate sacrifice. Fortunately, Harry, I'm making the assumption he may have some means, but not everyone does. And, if you're giving up your job to care for someone you love, we should have some kind of policy where they get tax credits so that, they're not earning money, but they're making that sacrifice. And it's hard. It really is hard. And I make this appeal, and I want to hear from you, Kate, but I make this appeal to our listening audience. Recognize those people that are making that ultimate sacrifice. They are the unsung heroes. Don't ask to help, but do help. Help them. Help them by maybe taking their loved one to the doctors, or maybe saying, hey, why don't I sit down with your husband or sit down with your wife this afternoon so you can go and take care of yourself. Respite. You talked about the Respite Act. Respite is so, so important.
I remember a very touching example of a woman whose husband was total care, and they were at home, and her one request for respite was 2 hours a week so she could go to Mass. She missed going to Mass and praying. And it's those little things that we can do for caregivers. I have a neighbor who's caring for somebody's dog while they're getting while they deal with what they have to deal with. There are so many things we can do in the spirit of neighborliness and friendship. On the legislative level, we have resources like you, Bob, people we can go to who understand the depth and breadth of the issues that we face as a state, more than many other states out there, because we have a significant population of elderly people, and that population is growing exponentially as the baby boomers grow. We have to come up with a coherent, cohesive set of policies and strategies to best involve individuals and government services where needed to address this problem on a more uniform basis. I love the description of what's happening out in Tempe. There's no reason why we can't replicate that across the state. And I am prepared to do anything legislatively that can be done to put forward a comprehensive policy for our elderly.
I'm so glad I heard you say that, because Jan Doherty was there, and Jan Doherty is the director of memory care programs for the Banner Alzheimer's Institute. She's moving into more of a position of the dementia-friendly city in Tempe. She's really the one that went out and did the research. She went to the United Kingdom first because they had it over there. Mm-hmm. And one of the parting comments she said is, "We want a dementia-friendly Arizona," and I think we can do it. We have an aging population here. One of the statistics that was shared is Alzheimer's, and I want to just stem into Alzheimer's because we're talking about former Congressman Harry Mitchell and his wife. Alzheimer's, it was shared statistically that it's costing our Medicare budget 3 times what a normal person costs in terms of care. You ready for this one? It's costing Medicaid 19 times what a normal person. We can't handle this. We have 5.4 million Americans that have this disease. It's predicted by 2030 there's going to be over 15 million people with this disease. It's going to cost our economy about $1.2 to $1.4 trillion a year. So we have to figure out a way to solve this issue. I am pleased to share with our listening audience, and I have in the past, I'm on the board for Banner Alzheimer's Institute. We're making breakthroughs all the time. Eric Ryman, Dr. Eric Ryman
is amazing.
He's our leader, and
Yep.
his mission is to find a solution before we lose another generation. And they're doing some great things. I know we're getting close to winding down. I just want to make this, one announcement. November 12th, which is a week from tomorrow, is the Phoenix Memory Care Walk for the Alzheimer's Association. It's at Wesley Bolin Plaza. And it's at 7:30 is when you need to get down there. Please get down there. Please help us support it. This is a great cause to get behind. Kate, as we wrap up things, I'm going to ask you this question. What are you doing this weekend? I know you're busy. You're on the trail.
Well, I'm building off a very successful Twitter hashtag called Vote Kate November 8. And
I like that.
I know, a lot of people do.
Vote Kate November 8.
Really focusing on getting out voters, making sure that those who have their early ballots can take them back to the polls. Understand you don't have to wait in line. You can just drop them off at any polling site, making sure our day of election voters get out and vote. Whatever your concerns might be about various positions on the ticket, there are lots of positions and elected positions that you need to consider and vote for. So
get out and vote. And
get out and vote.
Well, listen, you've been listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. Kate, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Make it a great day. Get out and vote. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Don't miss a minute of Market Wrap with Mo Ansari, the daily show that brings you the latest financial news, expert guests from around the world, and answers to your financial questions. If you missed the show on the radio, get the Market Wrap app and listen at your convenience. Just dial pound 250 on your cell phone and use the keyword Talk to Mo. Once you have the Market Wrap app, the show will download automatically to your smartphone every day. So dial pound 250 on your cell phone and use the keyword Talk to Mo to get the Market Wrap app.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM
is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257 CD Phoenix. Join the guys of Millennial Money Club live from Scottsdale's newest luxury residence, the Envy. Coming up in just a few minutes, right after we check the news. Right now we check the market. Dow is down 35 points, S&P 500 down 3, and the NASDAQ down 10 points.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news.